Hello again. In this video, we're going to take a look at how we can create the mug that you're asked to produce in Activity 2.2, Take Modeling to Another Dimension. This is one that I've already done kind of as an example. I like it pretty good. This one may be a little bit different than the one that you create. What I was going for here was having something like a tall travel mug. And I'm going to show you one technique that you can use to produce a mug similar to this one. Keep in mind there are lots of approaches that you can use in SketchUp Pro, and you don't be afraid to experiment. And as you see ways you can use the tools here to adjust what we're doing, feel free to try them out. As I look at mine, there's lots of things that I'd like to try to adjust on this basic mug. So, getting started, what I'm going to do is kind of leave this one sitting in the background, but then I'm going to come over and find my axis. I'm going to begin working from my axis there. So my other one is still sitting over there in the background. To begin, I'm going to sketch the base, which I will use a circle tool for. And this one I'm going to have a radius of 1.5 inches, which is going to give me a diameter of 3 inches. I will press pull that 7 inches tall. Now this is a little taller than a lot of people would do a mug, but once again, I want this to be kind of a travel mug. I'm going to go ahead and hollow out the inside because right now it's a solid figure. To begin that, I like using the offset tool. So if I can take this upper lip and offset that coming in, by experimenting, I found I like 0.15 inches on mine. It's not real thick, not real thin. Should make a good working mug for me there. And then we'll do a press pull and take this down. And I'm going to leave the bottom of my mug a little bit thicker than some folks would. Remember, the whole mug is 7 inches tall, so I'm going to make this be 6.7 on this press pull, and that'll leave 3/10 of an inch of thickness in the bottom. And if we orbit that, you can actually look down inside that and see it hollowed it, but it's got a solid bottom, which is neat. So let's go back now, and in isometric view, we can actually continue our work with this. I'm going to pan this and pick it up and come over a little bit. Now, if we look at the original mug, you'll notice that there is a flat surface that I've added onto the side of the mug body. This gives me a real nice surface to build a handle from, and it protrudes out of that mug a little bit. You can see it there at that point sticking out there. When we manufacture products, we call a protruding surface like this a boss, just so you're using the right terminology. So we're going to create that boss on our new mug over here and get that started. So to do that, I use the rectangle tool, and I come away from the mug body to do that a bit. And by experimenting, I found I like to have this 0.15 inches wide across front, which is the same depth as my mug body. Might have to come in and try that again. 0.15 inches, comma, in the other direction. I think I will go 3/8 of an inch. And we'll create that. If I zoom in a bit, makes it a shade easier here. We'll go ahead and do a press pull on that surface. It's not wanting to pick that up. There it goes. And this is going to go 7 inches. Complete height of the mug at this point. Now, if you'll notice where I started that on the axis line and went over, this is not going to go exactly to the center of the mug like I want it, have material out both sides. So what I'll do is now come back and do a press pull this way and have that come over 3/8 of an inch like I did going in the other direction. And hopefully that will have, looks like that didn't work just right. I'm going to try that again. Don't be afraid to check, and if something doesn't look right, try it again. Oftentimes I find sometimes I'll have to do these a couple of times to get them to work. Now, looking down there at that axis line, that looks like I've got the same amount going out in both directions, which is what I want. All right, so that works pretty good for us there. Now, what I like to do is change this around so that I am looking at the front, and I'm going to zoom out, pan this down where we can do some working at it. And what I'm going to do is establish a path line that my handle shape is going to follow. And I'm going to do that with my line tool, with the pencil here. So the first thing I do, I think I would like mine on the top to start at about this point. I'm just going to come out, and I want to be sure it says on the red axis. Right, a little ways straight. Have it go down. That's about where I would want it to end on the bottom. And then bring it back over to that surface. If I go back to isometric, that doesn't quite look like I wanted. I wanted that in the center. So I need to undo those lines. There's always more than one way to go about it. All right, let's do this. Let's look at the side, and we'll do it this way. Well, let's draw that vertical line. And put it about there. If we'll go back to isometric, now what I can do is actually bring it out on the red axis a ways. I'll escape and get out of that mode, and then come pick it up at this point again. Bring it out until I get that point there that shows it's out at the same distance away as the other one is. And I've got that. All right. So look at the side again. You can see we got the vertical line. If I look at my front, now you can see those two edges sticking out right there. All right, and this may be a good place to do the next step. What I'm going to do is use my arc tool, and I'm just going to draw an arc from here to this one, and then bow it out an amount that I think is going to look good. Maybe something like that. And then go back to isometric. Now what I have found is this is trying to come up with a solid shape. So I like to go ahead now and erase that vertical line that I first drew, and you can see now it basically is just left those two little horizontal line segments and the arc, which is going to work real well for me. So let's pick up a circle. Start here. And we're just going to have the shape of the handle, and let's have this be a 1/2 inch in diameter. See how that looks right there? Oh, that's too big. So let's picking that as the radius. Let's undo that circle and try another one. But let's have 0.25 this time. And that looks a little bit more reasonable. So at this point, we're going to use a new tool called Follow Me. We're going to make that shape follow the line that we selected and drew there. So we'll click inside the circle, and then it's pretty important once it starts here, that we click on this first line segment. It's not picking that up. Let's get that. There we go. And now it's going to follow that line segment all the way around to the end. And now we have a solid handle, right? Which is looking pretty good. The only thing about this is the handle and the rectangular prism for the balls and that sort of thing are all individual pieces at this point. I want to make these be a unit. So if I choose my selection tool right here and box those in, I can go to the edit menu and choose to make them a group. Now, once they're a group, anything that I do to one portion of that will happen to the whole thing. So what I do at this point is then use my move tool, and then I'll move straight on this axis, and I'm going to move that boss about halfway into the mug body. And at the top, that's looking a little bit much. So let's do that. All right, I'm going to do this and zoom in a little bit and see if I can get that a little closer to what I want. Go back to move. Yeah, something like that is a little bit more to my liking. So right along in there, and I'm gonna stop on that one at that point. Zoom out. And then same thing, if I take my select tool, box the whole mug and handle assembly together and make that a group. Now I have a mug with a boss and a handle that is one unit. And just to be sure, if I choose move, we can see the whole thing moves together. Everything goes fine, and I'm in great shape. And you can see the one we just did is very, very similar to the one that I have as the example. There's a few differences in the diameter of the handle and that sort of thing, but it looks really good. So I could go ahead at this point, save my mug, and I would be in great shape. Process is not too terribly difficult, but there's several steps in it here, and it really pays to have an idea of what you're working toward up front. So have fun making your mug. Save it and be ready to share with me and with the rest of your classmates. And as always, if you have questions, be sure and ask so we know that you can handle SketchUp Pro like a pro.